Part 98. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 971. Chapter 971 Talent. Perhaps her bright smile infected the child. Li Rui hesitated and nodded. Li Lei pulled him to sit next to him, touched his little head with a smile, and got him another snack. Li Rui was rarely treated like this by his father. He was flattered and hurriedly sat up straight, trying to show his best side so that his father and Aunt Ling would like him more. Xiao Rui is so cute. Xiao Ling praised her and started painting. Painting portraits is a task that requires patience. It is not only hard work for the painter, but also for the portrait model, who has to be motionless for an hour or two, which is also very hard. Xiao Ling took into account that the child was young and did not have such high demands on him. Xiao Rui, you can eat some more snacks and chat with daddy. Only in this way can the child sit still and hopefully develop interest. The child happily said hello and chatted with his father while eating snacks. After a while, his restraint and timidity disappeared, and he burst into laughter from time to time. Li Lei felt sorry for the child who was not well received by his own mother, so he was a little more patient with him and deliberately picked some interesting topics to talk about. Time passed unknowingly. Xiao Ling put the last stroke on the canvas and announced, "The painting is done." Two people, one large and one small, couldn't wait to rush over to take a look. I saw flowers blooming in the colorful light and shadow, and an extremely handsome man was talking to the child with his head tilted. His expression was focused and gentle, as if he regarded the child next to him as the most precious treasure in the world. The child raised his head slightly, full of admiration and admiration. "The painting is really good," Li Lei praised his wife, "so I am so handsome." Xiao Ling smiled and glared at him. "You are influenced by Xiao Rui. How can such a cute child like Xiao Rui admire such an ugly person? I have to make you look more handsome." The two were joking. Li Rui listened to them while looking at the painting. The self in the painting is really cute, wearing clean little clothes, holding a beautiful snack. The sun is shining on my face, as if the whole world is bright. This was not what shocked him the most. What shocked him the most was the way Li Lei looked at him in the painting, so focused and gentle, making him feel that he was truly loved. It turns out that Dad still likes him very much. Li Rui felt warm in his heart and reached out his hand to touch the painting. "The paint is not dry yet," Xiao Ling chuckled and pulled his hand back. "If Xiao Rui likes it, I will give this painting to you. I will ask the servant to frame it and send it to your room. Is that okay?" The child raised his head with joy. "Of course," Xiao Ling said. "Xiao Rui likes painting." "I like it," the child nodded vigorously. "Then it's yours. These painting tools and paints are also given to you. If you are interested, you can try painting yourself." Xiao Ling smiled sweetly. "I can become a great painter in the future." The child nodded vigorously again and solemnly took the paintbrush she handed her. In the following days, Li Rui really became interested in painting. When Xiao Hui went to class, he painted on his own. At first, it was some very abstract color blocks, but later it gradually became organized and decent. Xiao Ling often visits him, praises him, and gives advice on his painting techniques. Looking at the trusting and adoring eyes of her child, she sometimes felt that she was despicable, because no matter how hard she taught him, she could not hide the fact that she was removing obstacles for Xiaohui's future. It is much better to have an artist brother than an ambitious brother. Because of her guilt, she was more attentive to her children. She personally took care of everything from hiring a tutor to eating and dressing. Even Xiao Xiaohui sometimes gets jealous and mutters, "Mom is so good to Xiao Rui nowadays. He is very full of schoolwork and does not have as much time to spend with her as Li Rui, and with his father getting along is not always so pleasant." Woo woo woo. When his father teaches him various skills, he beats him whenever he disagrees. How can his mother be so gentle and patient with Li Rui? Xiao Ling smiled and said, And Sutang is not here, so mother should take more care of him. Xiao Hui blinked his eyes and stopped talking. This child is very smart. As early as when Li Lei talked to him, he understood that adults don't like Li Rui to learn too much practical knowledge. At this time, he has guessed that Xiaoling cares about Li Rui on the one hand, and more importantly, it is probably to let Li Rui immerse himself in some useless art. It will not pose a threat to him in the future. But he also knew that these words would not help the matter. He remembered the good things his parents did to him, but the grievances Xiao Rui suffered lingered in his heart for a long time. Why is there no perfect solution in this world? The little child looked at the sky sadly and encountered the first problem in his life. Xiaoling still takes care of Li Rui with all her heart. Li Rui is now much closer to her. Under the joint upbringing of her and her tutor, he has gotten rid of many bad habits. He no longer hits and scolds people casually. He can also distinguish between occasions and be polite. Even Mr. Li was very satisfied after seeing it. It is true that the old man wants a dandy, but he cannot be a dandy who will embarrass the Li family. It doesn't matter that Li Rui Feiying is a lackey for the rest of his life, but he can't let people talk about it, making people think that the Li family has no tutor. In the past, Sutang's upbringing was too rough, almost turning him into a wild child no different from a commoner in the city or a villager in the mountains. But now, Xiaoling has carefully guided him on the path of art, and she has also let the wildness in the child become the bohemianness of the artist. It is an aristocratic and charming temperament. Mr. Li gradually changed his impression of Xiaoling. He originally thought that she was useless, but who knew that she would be capable of being the mistress of the house? At least, in terms of raising children, there are countless ways to leave Sutang behind. On this day, Mr. Li was drinking tea in the yard. Li Rui came to see him holding a painting. "Grandpa, Grandpa, do you think this is the portrait I drew for you? Does it look good?" The child's eyes were bright, looking forward to praise. Mr. Li took it and took a look. It was a very simple sketch. It could be seen that the composition and light and shadow were still very immature, but there seemed to be a temperament in the painting that outlined the charm of the characters. The kind and sharp eyes of the old man came to life on the drawing paper. He was so excited that he said good several times in a row. Li Rui was very happy to receive the praise. Aunt Ling also said that I painted well. Much better than my brother. Mr. Li held him on his knees and asked kindly, "Did Aunt Ling really say that?" "Well," the child nodded vigorously, his smiling face rosy with excitement. "She said that I am very talented in painting, and few children can compare with me. She said that my brother does not have such talent." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 972. Chapter 972 The Old Man's Transformation. It's not that he deliberately belittled his brother, but that his brother was simply too good. He was far superior to him in marksmanship, fighting, mathematics, physics, culture, history and philosophy. Although he admired his brother, as a little boy, he had always been suppressed by others. The feeling of holding one end is not pleasant either. It's rare that something is better than his brother, so why shouldn't he be excited? Because of this, he became more interested in painting. At this time, Mr. Li roughly understood how Xiaoling guided his children, and smiled. "Brother has his strengths, and you have yours, which is good. Your Aunt Ling is also very good. These days, he lives in this villa," and Li Lei had a long talk with him. Li Lei very sincerely asked him to accept Xiaoling and told him, "Grandpa, whether you like Xiaoling or not, the fact that she is the mistress of the Li family will not change in the next few decades in this life, and she will not be happy for a day. Harmony is also a day. Why can't we live in harmony?" Mr. Li angrily drove his grandson out of the room. "However, when I calm down, I always think of this issue mentioned by Sun Tzu. Xiaoling is the jewel in the eye of a super reclusive wealthy family. She has a good relationship with her grandson and her status is unshakable. Even if there are twists and turns in life, her grandson is determined to live and die with her without any negotiation. For the sake of family harmony, there is no other way but to accept Xiaoling. What makes the old man uncomfortable is, how could the matron of the Li family be so weak? Xiaoling has no city, no scheming, and zero strategizing skills, less than 1/10,000th of Sutang's. How can such a head mother help the family? Even if there is a supernatal family, the Li family cannot always rely on the mistress natal family for their affairs, otherwise the outside world will laugh them off. So, the old man has always been worried about it. Until the incident of Li Rui learning to paint happened, Mr. Li suddenly realized that this grandson's wife was not without merit. Even if she is shallow-minded and doesn't know how to strategize, she can make her family live in harmony and her children and grandchildren can grow up harmoniously. For a large and complicated family, what else is more important? Compared to Sutang, he may be a good subordinate and can be regarded as his right-hand man and confidant, but he is really not as good as Xiaoling in terms of raising children and settling down the family home. That's all. Mr. Li sighed, no one is perfect. There are so many subordinates in the Li family, and there is no shortage of people with deep thoughts. But there are very few who can cultivate children well. Grandpa, what are you talking about? Li Rui looked at him curiously. The old man came back to his senses, looked at his nominal great-grandson, smiled, and said lovingly, "Do you like Aunt Ling?" "I like it," the child replied without hesitation, "Aunt Ling is the best, even better than my mother. She will teach me how to draw, play with me, buy me new clothes, and tell me bedtime stories. I like Ling the best." "Auntie." The world of a child is so simple, he will always remember whoever treats him well. After saying this, Mr. Li smiled again and touched the child's head. For the first time, he felt that the Li family might have married the right grandson-in-law. A few days later, Sutang came again. Wearing a smoky gray dress embroidered with tangdi flowers, she looked elegant. She stood in front of the glass window of the living room and said to Xiaoling in a slow voice, "Are you feeling better, Xiaorui? I haven't seen you for such a long time." "I'm here, look at him, you can't stop us from meeting forever." Xiaoling didn't bother to pretend to her, so she called a servant directly, "Go and ask young Master Rui, tell her that his mother Sutang is here and ask him if he wants to meet her." She was wearing a homely shirt, loose and tailored. Soft material, casual and lazy, completely different from Sutang's exquisiteness. There was a hint of tranquility on her face, and she looked like she was living a happy life. She was glowing from the inside out, like a flower that stretched out at will. In contrast, although Sutang Mei is beautiful, she is too deliberate. Sutang looked at her, guessing about her and Li Lei's happy life, filled with jealousy. Originally, days like this should belong to you. She should be the mistress of Li Lei's house. The more she thought about it, the more unwilling she became. It was like a ball of fire was burning in her heart. These days, with Li Lei's alienation, even though her appearance and posture could still barely maintain the exquisite elegance of the past, her inner self had long since lost its former reserve and arrogance. She became an impatient woman and said to Xiaoling, "Xiaorui will definitely meet me. Stop pretending and send someone to ask." "How do I know if you really asked or if you just found a reason, perfunctory with me?" Xiaoling sneered, "I've never seen anyone who feels as good about themselves as you do. It's up to Xiaorui whether he sees you or not, so you know he will definitely see you." "Don't be kidding, you almost beat him up, damn it, he will hate you for the rest of his life." In fact, children can't hold grudges that much. Their thinking is simple. Even if they are scared to death when they are beaten, it is not impossible to forgive after the incident comes and their mother uses a few nice words to coax them. But Xiaoling did not intend to give Su Tang such a chance. This woman has ulterior motives and has not taken good care of her child at all. If Li Rui forgives her and gets close to and trusts her as a biological mother again, sooner or later, he will be sold and help count the money. These days, Xiaoling and Li Rui get along day and night. It would be a lie to say they don't have feelings. Now, Li Rui is really like her own child. She takes good care of him and educates him. She doesn't want her child to mistrust someone and get hurt. Two women were facing each other in the living room, neither giving in to the other. Not long after, the servant returned and said to Xiaoling respectfully, "Madam, young Master Rui is painting butterflies in the back garden and says he doesn't want to see his mother." Xiaoling chuckled lightly and looked at Su Tang. "Did you hear that? Please come back." Su Tang shook his head. "I don't believe it. You must have lied to me. It must have happened." "Su Tang," came an old and steady male voice. It was Mr. Li, who walked out of the side door at some point. When Li Rui was painting butterflies just now, he was with the child. He also heard the servant's voice and came out to take a look. "It's Xiao Rui who said he doesn't want to see you. He hates being disturbed when he is painting. Sit down and rest, let's talk after Xiao Rui finishes painting." Unlike Xiaoling, he is not so hostile to Su Tang. Even though he thinks Su Tang is not good at raising children, he appreciates her talents in other areas and still hopes to be able to raise children to ease their mother-son relationship. Xiaoling glanced at the old man. Who is the master of this home? Why is he so conscious of keeping guests? Of course Mr. Li understood the meaning of her eyes and called out, "Xiaoling, come with me." His relationship with Xiaoling has eased recently, but after all, they are not too close, and they need to communicate when they encounter differences. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 973. Chapter 973, The Will of the Housewife. Xiaoling told the servant, "Take good care of Miss Su." She deliberately emphasized the word "take care of." The servant understood the meaning of her words and stared at Su Tang's every move, making it impossible for Su Tang to make any small movements. Su Tang was extremely angry, but there was nothing he could do. Xiaoling followed the old man to the small lounge behind the living room and said dissatisfiedly, "Grandpa, this is a woman's business. I don't want you to interfere." Her words were very straightforward. Although she tried to be gentle, she was still very rude. Mr. Li looked at her. No matter what, Su Tang is Xiao Rui's biological mother. How can a mother and her son have an overnight feud? Since she knows she was wrong and her bipolar disorder has stopped, why not let her meet Xiao Rui, reconcile earlier? Xiaoling didn't want her child to be brought up by her, so she snorted and said, "I don't agree." Every servant in this house listens to Xiaoling. As long as Xiaoling disagrees, Mr. Li's words are useless. Mr. Li was so angry that he thought this granddaughter-in-law was quite good. Why did she prevent Su Tang, a meritorious official, from visiting his son just 2 days ago because of a little personal emotion? If this continues, wouldn't it chill Su Tang's heart? Seeing Mr. Li's face become serious, Xiaoling expressed her concerns. "Grandpa, it's true that I don't like Su Tang, but it's not just because of this that I stopped Xiao Rui from seeing her. You have seen what he has been like over the past few years. He is not polite, ungrateful, and always beats and scolds others. Do you think he is like a replica of Li Feng? Do you want a second Li in the family?" Wind. The old man choked. Li Feng, his grandson, was an eternal pain in his heart. To be fair, Li Feng is so outstanding. His firearms, strategy, and ability to inspire people are all first class. If the Li family didn't have Li Lei, Li Feng would be the worthy successor in terms of ability. It's a pity that such an outstanding child has such a cynical character, which ultimately harmed his relatives and himself. Mr. Li's late-night dream. I often feel sad for my grandson who died young. If I had cared more about him and taught him to follow the right path from an early age, wouldn't he have had the same fate later? The old man's face showed sadness. Xiaoling softened her voice, I don't like Sutang, and Sutang doesn't like me either. Old man, she is not as knowledgeable, polite as you seem. The old man came back to his senses and retorted to her, Sutang has always been very sensible. Xiaoling chuckled lightly, who would tolerate a love rival? Well, even if she didn't show any jealousy towards me in front of you, you could see Xiao Rui's attitude towards me in the past. Who taught her that? Mr. Li stopped talking. Deep in his heart, he really didn't want Sutang, whom he always respected, to be so hostile to Xiaoling. But since he got rid of his prejudice against Xiaoling, there are many things that Mr. Li only needs to calm down. If you think about it, you can tell something is wrong. Xiaoling said, even if you don't take care of me, you must take care of Xiao Hui. Sutang hates me, and naturally he hates Xiao Hui. Xiao Rui's attitude towards Xiao Hui was very bad before. Now, the two brothers are finally in harmony. If Sutang provokes Xiao Rui to hate Xiao Hui again, the biggest disaster for a family will be the feud between brothers 10 or 20 years later. It's not that she has much knowledge in this area, but it's that when you care about your son, think more deeply. She looked at the old man sincerely, believing that the old man must understand these truths that even she understood. Sure enough, the old man was silent for a long time and sighed. That's all. Before Sutang gives up her thoughts about Li Lei, there is no need to let her see Xiao Rui. The old man said, if she has a purpose in her heart, she will try her best to achieve it, so as not to spoil the child. A smile bloomed on Aya's lips, a smile of victory. How she wanted to give herself a pat on the back. The old man who once hated her so much and was so attracted to Sutang could finally stand by her side and help her guard against Sutang. Even for the sake of her two children, she was content. After all, she didn't want to have too many conflicts with her beloved's grandfather. The two of them finished their discussion and returned to the living room. Sutang is sitting on the sofa drinking tea, with graceful posture and straight back. The sun shines on her body like a veil, attracting people's attention unconsciously. What a beautiful girl! However, Xiaoling refused to give her face and said with a smile, Miss Su, I've been waiting for a long time. I just discussed it with my grandfather. Recently, Xiao Rui has a heavy course load every day and is too tired. Since I don't want to see you, then it's better not to meet him. Boy, some opinions are good, we should respect him from an early age, don't you think? Full of nonsense. Sutang was so angry that he suppressed his anger and looked at Mr. Li in disbelief. It's just that Xiaoling didn't let her see her, it was expected, but why did Mr. Li turn to support Xiaoling? With a strong sense of crisis rising in his heart, Sutang put down his teacup and stood up, calling out with both grievance and help, old man. The old man looked at her with pity, Ah Tang, since you are in the Li family, you must abide by the rules of the Li family, don't go against the wishes of the mistress, and set a good example for others. The child will live well with Xiaoling taking care of him. Very good, don't worry. Xiaoling has her own reasons for not letting you meet. When she thinks it's appropriate for you to meet, she will arrange for you to meet with the child. Be obedient and you have to understand the general situation. Sutang was frightened and angry, and even his body was shaking with anger. What kind of ecstasy soup did that Xiaoling pour into the old man to make him say these words? She staggered back a few steps, tears falling from her cheeks. Please, don't do this. Mr. Li frowned, why is this child disobedient? Ada, send Miss Su back. He directly ordered a servant, take good care of her, you know. The servant responded and said to Sutang, "Miss Su, please." Sutang's face turned blue and white. Seeing that he could not get any favors, he just whispered, "No need to send me away, I will leave by myself." She shed 2 more tears, as if she was holding back her grievances, and raised her head to look. Mr. Li said, "I listen to you, then I'm leaving. You, help me take care of Xiaorui, take care of yourself." Speaking, he covered his face and sobbed, and walked out quickly. Mr. Li looked at her back and felt a little sorry. However, having been in charge of the Li family for many years, he understood deeply that sometimes, in order to ensure the interests of the entire family, one had to sacrifice the interests of certain people, even if it was right. The same goes for Sutang. Compassion does not control soldiers, this is the ruthlessness that a superior person must have. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 974. Chapter 974 New song released. Xiaoling has been recuperating at home for a few days, and her body is getting better day by day. Her skin has become smooth and moist again, her eyebrows are delicate and light, and she is radiant. Her mood improved and she resumed work in the recording studio and began recording new songs. The first thing to be recorded was Sanskrit Sound, which she sang temporarily when Lilei was critically ill. This is a song without lyrics, but it is more moving than any melody in the world. It has an indescribable ethereal and mysterious atmosphere that lingers. Go, with zen and divinity, let the listeners forget all their worries. Sanskrit has received a lot of praise since its release. The number of downloads hit a new high overnight, it was retweeted everywhere in moments, and the topic online also skyrocketed. The streets and lanes are full of discussions about this song. Have you heard of Sanskrit? It's the one recently released by Goddess Xiaoling. It's so good, on campus, girls recommended it to their friends. I've heard of it, more girls responded excitedly, there is no female singer better than Xiaoling. I went to the last Blessing concert, and I thought at that time, if I could Sanskrit is great as a song, I didn't expect it to be released so soon. I want to recommend it to others. Fanatical fans spread the word spontaneously. It was originally the new song of the super diva, but there is such a beautiful love story behind it. In addition, many loyal fans spare no effort to promote it, and the word-of-mouth effect, this song quickly became popular all over the country, and even in many places abroad. Hear its melody. Even Xiaoling herself was shocked when she saw the number of downloads. You're rich, tisk tisk. Lin Yunan, the big manager in Feng Qianchang's company, came up behind her and took a look at the number of downloads. He quickly calculated it in his head and said with a smile, "The game you held last time was free. The prayer concert will pay back your money in minutes, and the extra money will be enough for you to squander it casually for a long time. This year's best-selling single award must be this song. Looking at the reputation, there is no suspense for the best golden song and the best female singer." Xiaoling didn't care about these awards at all now. She stared blankly at the astronomical numbers on the screen for a while, and then said with some relief, "As long as everyone likes it, it's not a waste of my time to record and give back to them." Lin Yunan shrugged, "With your current status and status as the great queen, let alone such a carefully crafted song, even if you just randomly pick one out of the discarded songs, wouldn't a bunch of fans kneel down and lick it?" As he spoke, he leisurely left the office humming Invincible and The Loneliest. As she became invincible in the music world, he, a big manager, was also very lonely and could not find a rival. The song spread like wildfire all over the world, and within a few days, there were even some mysterious legends. Do you know? This Sanskrit sound has been blessed. Listen to it before confessing to your sweetheart, and you will. If you can express yourself successfully, listen to it before the exam, and you will definitely pass every exam. Really, I'll try. I'll try it too. Fans enthusiastically tried it, and many actually claimed success or achieved ideal results. They were all overjoyed and rushed to tell each other. This song is really powerful. Goddess Xiao Ling is indeed the reincarnation of the Xia family's phoenix. What she sings is simply a divine song. A blessed divine song. Soon, before confessing, before exams, even before looking for a job, before entering a casino, before dealing with various life events, more and more people are listening to this song, expecting that this song can bring them happiness. Good luck. Xiaoling was also dumbfounded. Why didn't she know that this song had such a role? However, when Xia Moyan came to visit her sister, she answered a question for her: "You are a phoenix. You sing prayer songs with a heart of gratitude and feedback. You have the power of telepathy. Although this power of telepathy has no specific target, but it can still protect some lucky people and bring them some good luck." Is this actually true? Xiaoling couldn't believe it. "I thought it was a rumor," Xia Mo said calmly. "This is their blessing, and it is also your blessing. When the phoenix gives blessings, it is also accumulating for itself. Phew, Xiaoling, your life will be smoother and smoother in the future." Xiaoling became happy and felt very lucky that she had recorded this song. Of course, there are some that are spiritual and some that are not. Some people said that she was a liar, saying that the song Sanskrit was not that magical at all. Even if she listened to it before the exam, she would still fail. Even if she listened to it before the interview, she still failed. As a result, many people shared their experiences of success and failure with each other, and eventually developed various rituals, such as burning incense and bathing before listening to songs, clasping hands and chanting words while listening to songs, and not being interrupted while listening to songs. It is actually followed by many people. Seeing that the popularity is rising, Xiaoling's official website message board is also filled with people praying and returning their wishes every day. The huge traffic almost overwhelms the server. She couldn't resist their enthusiasm, so after thinking about it, she made a decision: "Let's hold a Sanskrit concert to thank everyone for their love." Her brother said that listening to her live singing was more rewarding than downloading the audio. And she can also get more merit and good rewards. As soon as the news of the on-site meeting came out, it caused a sensation and it was hard to get a ticket. As a last resort, the officials had to resort to a lottery to finally select tens of thousands of lucky live audience members among the large number of fans. On the day of the concert, Xiao Xiaowai also made noises to join in the fun. Xiaoling dotes on her son very much. She immediately said yes with a smile and brought Li Rui with her. Media reporters photographed the three of them getting off the extended white limousine together. She held the hands of the two children and walked across the red carpet, carefully matching the children's pace, and was extremely gentle and considerate. "What a good mother," reporters sighed one after another. "In comparison, Sutang is so incompetent," another reporter commented to his companion. "Have you seen the photos of Sutang holding Li Rui's hand? He didn't even notice the child out of the corner of his eye. Sometimes the child has to trot to keep up with her." Compared with Yexing Ling looks like her biological mother and Sutang looks like her stepmother. His companion looked through old historical pictures. "Really? Is this child Sutang's biological child?" In all the photos of mother and child together, Sutang never even glanced at the child, she only cared about her own appearance. Journalists quickly edited a comparison picture between the two, and quickly posted it online after being processed by their respective media. Here, the concert has not officially started yet, but over there, the comparison pictures have aroused heated discussions. Sutang stayed at home alone, drinking red wine alone. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 975. Chapter 975. The concert ends. I heard that today is Xiaoling's concert, which is very lively. Even Li Rui's unfilial child has gone. Has that child long ago forgotten who is his real mother? Eat the inside out. Su Tang squeezed the goblet tightly, looked at the bright red liquid in the cup, and said viciously. At this moment, the phone rang. She took it and it turned out to be a reporter. Ms. Su, what do you think about Ye Xingling bringing her child to the concert? Now there are rumors that the child likes Ye Xingling more than you. What do you think? She was sulky, but she took it out of her mind to show her bad image, and said stiffly, no comment. Hang up the phone, but my mood cannot calm down for a long time. How come there are such rumors from the outside world? She thought that although she disliked Li Rui, she still did a good job of saving face in front of others. It must have been malicious slander by that Ye Xingling, which is why so many people started making noises, thinking that Li Rui didn't like her mother. That must be the case. Su Tang's eyes became gloomy, and the phone rang again. He was still interviewing her about Li Rui. This time, she still replied with a stiff no comment and hung up the phone. Unexpectedly, the phone rang more frequently. Su Tang was annoyed and pressed the power off button. After turning off the phone, I still can't understand my hatred. Ye Xingling, a bitch, dared to mobilize public opinion to stab her. Her expression became more and more gloomy. Finally, she put down the goblet filled with red wine, returned to the bedroom, took out another mobile phone from a hidden drawer, and made a call. This mobile phone has been specially treated. No one can find out who the owner of the mobile phone is. It is very safe. She said to the other end of the phone, listen, take action in advance and it will be implemented tonight. In advance, the person on the other end of the phone was surprised. Didn't we agree to start in 3 days? Tonight is Ye Xingling's concert. There are many media reporters and fans. The goal is too big to start. I said early. Su Tang's voice was full of anger, take advantage of the chaos. She has a lot of fans, doesn't she? After killing her, push her on the fans. What's the word? Fanatic fans kill for love. Sanskrit failure to pray will lead to retaliation. There are so many reasons for you to get away with it. When the other party thought about it, it made sense. Okay, then I'll take action tonight. However, if I change my plan temporarily, I have to take the risk. Remember to add money. I want double the price. Double? Are you crazy? Su Tang scolded. You won't give it, right? The person on the other end of the phone smiled ferociously. If you don't give it, I won't do this business. Go back and tell Boss Li that someone is going to assassinate Ye Xingling. Guess what, Boss Li, how much will you generously give me? Su Tang's expression suddenly changed. You're dreaming. Li Lei will definitely kill you. I'm not scared, the person on the other end of the phone said even more fiercely. If I don't give you double the money, you can give it a try. The worst is that we will all die together. Su Tang took a deep breath and told himself to calm down. He must be calm. What's the point of talking to this kind of desperado? Ever since she was kicked out of the Li family by Xiaoling last time, she had been looking for a killer and planned to assassinate Ye Xingling. She had carefully calculated that with the current level of love between Ye Xingling and Li Lei, ordinary negative news, spreading rumors, and spreading dirty water would not work at all. The most permanent solution was assassination. She finally found a suitable killer and didn't want any more accidents to happen at this juncture. Okay, double is double, she said compromisingly. Even though a single price would be enough for her to live frugally, and a double price would put her on the verge of bankruptcy, but as long as she could get rid of Xiaoling and become the wife of the Li family, how much money would she not be able to get back? This deal is worth it? Su Tang comforted herself. On the other end of the phone, the killer smiled proudly. Now you know the current situation, please call the additional deposit first. Su Tang scraped together some money and finally managed to get the cash, which he transferred according to the account designated by the killer. After paying the money, She felt exhausted, and she knelt on the ground and prayed, "God, gods, or demons, please bless this assassination plan to go smoothly, to get rid of Xiaoling, and to avoid future troubles." Xiaoling knew nothing about what she was doing, and sang her own Sanskrit music on the star-studded stage. The concert went very smoothly. In addition to this latest song, she also sang many famous songs from her debut to the present. Some of the emperor's works in her previous life were also performed in the form of covers. The atmosphere in the audience was explosive, especially when Xiao Shaohui and Li Rui wore sparkling stage costumes and appeared as guests. The enthusiastic cheers were about to lift the sky. The two children were smiling cutely and having a great time. Especially for Li Rui, it was the first time he stood on such a big stage and accepted the cheers of so many people, and his gratitude and admiration for Xiaoling grew even more. This Aunt Aya is really completely different from her mother. In the past, when she was with her mother, she was exposed to some sad and unhappy things every day, but with Aunt Aya, she seems to have a very happy life every day. The little child looks up to looking at Xiaoling's profile on the stage. A thought suddenly arose in my mind: how great it would be if she were his biological mother. The official program of the concert ended. Xiaoling performed many encores before completely leaving the stage amid the reluctance of the fans in the audience, taking off her makeup and taking a short rest. The dressing room was filled with flowers sent by fans. While Lin Yunan was playing with the flowers, she said to her and the children, "There are too many fans here today. Be careful when you go to the garage later. Be careful that someone is ambushing you to ask for your autograph or make any mistakes, something extreme." Xiaoling took off her earrings and said casually, "I know." After the makeup was removed and they put on their daily clothes, they warned Xiao Shaohui and Li Rui carefully, "You guys have to keep an eye on all directions and listen to all directions later, you know? Don't be abducted by the weird auntie." "Yeah," the two children nodded vigorously, but there was a faint excitement in their hearts. "Wow, it's so exciting." After changing clothes, Xiaoling took them out of the garage. The garage was very quiet, and most of the crowd was isolated by security guards. However, it was not ruled out that some capable paparazzi or fans could sneak in, so Xiaoling still did not relax her vigilance. The bodyguard walked a few steps away from her. Lin Yunan walked in front of her and took the lead to help her open the car door. She was standing on the roadside of the garage holding the hands of her two children. Suddenly, she felt a dazzling light flash from the corner of her eyes. She instinctively turned her head and saw a large truck rushing out from the corner above, roaring. Rushed straight towards her and the child. "Mother! Xiaoling!" Several different voices exclaimed. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 976. Chapter 976. The driver responsible for the accident. At the critical moment, Xiaoling had no time to think and instinctively pushed the two children out. The two children staggered and fell onto the bodyguard who was trying to rush to save them. The three of them fell into a ball on the ground. The bodyguard's heart skipped a beat. It was already too late to rush forward to save Xiaoling. Is this God's will? The bodyguard was upset. Why would she push the child over? According to Li Lei's instructions, his first priority should be Xiaoling. The moment he discovered the truck, he had already judged the situation. It was almost impossible for the three of them to be rescued at the same time, but he was sure to push her to a safe place. But all her plans came to nothing because of her move to save the child. Now, the two children are saved, but what about her? What should she do? Xiaoling's push just now used up all her explosive power, and she was now unable to dodge in the face of the rapidly approaching large truck. seeing that the big truck was about to hit her and crush her into a pulp. "Mom," Xiao Hui's voice was filled with tears. "Mom," Li Rui also shouted. His mind was still blank until now. Something shocked his heart. At the most critical moment, the beautiful woman in front of him was not thinking about escaping, but fighting for her own life. The danger of being run over pushed him to safety. Almost instinctively, the word mom blurted out. It was not a stepmother, nor was it Aunt Ling. At this moment, the little child willingly regarded this woman who risked her life to save him as his biological mother. The large truck's dazzling white light flashed past. There was a bang gunshot. It was the bodyguard who pulled out his pistol at the critical moment and shot the tire of the truck. The tire was blown out, and the big truck suddenly lost its balance. The front of the truck tilted to the side and stopped with a bang. Xiaoling, on the other hand, was knocked out and fell into a pool of blood on the ground. "Mom," Xiao Shaowai and Li Rui cried, going up to see her. The bodyguard hugged them tightly. "You two young masters, you are in danger." He dragged the two children into the car, fearing that the truck driver had accomplices, locked the door, and hurried to check on Xiaoling. Next to Xiaoling, Lin Yunan was squatting on the phone. 120. 120. Hurry up. Something happened to Yesin Ling. Yes, it's the singing Yesin Ling. If something happens to her, her husband and the whole family will know. Fans in the world will spare you. Wait, don't hang up, tell me the first aid measures, quickly. Following the instructions on the phone, the bodyguards and Lin Yunan gave her first aid. Xiaoling's face was as thin as gold paper, her whole body was covered in blood, and she didn't know where the bleeding point was. Luckily, the collision did not kill her on the spot because the bodyguard shot in time to blow off the wheels and send the truck off the track. Her breathing was weak, struggling before the door of death. The ambulance roared all the way and took her to the hospital and into the emergency room. Soon, Li Lei also hurried over. "What's going on?" Like an angry lion, he asked Lin Yunan and the bodyguard. The two told him roughly what happened. Finally, the bodyguard added, because it was the end of the concert, several other bodyguards went to the outside to prevent crowds. I was the only one at the scene of the incident, so I asked the driver to take advantage of everyone's busyness. It was my fault for running away. I'm sorry, master. Li Lei said, check it for me. Whoever dares to have trouble with my wife and children, I will kill him. The bodyguard solemnly accepted the order and went down to investigate the case with Tan Ying, who arrived temporarily. Li Lei's eyes were bloodshot and he walked around the emergency room for an unknown number of hours before he saw the light on the door go out and a doctor wearing surgical clothes come out. "Doctor, how is she?" Li Lei asked nervously. The doctor took off his mask and said, "The patient has multiple fractures and soft tissue contusions, but no important organs have been injured. It's not a serious problem. He will be fine after the bones are reattached and he recovers for a while." Li Lei let out a long sigh of relief. As soon as he relaxed, he seemed to have lost all his strength and fell down on the bench beside the corridor. Soon, Xiaoling was pushed out of the emergency room and into the ward. Li Lei was guarding her undressed beside the hospital bed. Finally, she opened her eyes. "Xiaoling, are you awake?" He was very happy, holding her hand, his eyes slightly red. Xiaoling looked at him with some difficulty, her voice was very weak. "Li Lei? Xiao, where is Xiao Hui? And how is Xiao Rui?" Before losing consciousness, the last scene came to mind, and she only remembered the sudden white light. And the panicked shouts of children. "The children are all fine and unscathed," Li Lei said, "take good care of your injuries and don't move." She then calmed down, looked at his red eyes, and smiled with difficulty. "Don't cry, you're a grown man, you're so ugly." She wanted to raise her hand to wipe the corners of his eyes, but because his arm was in a cast, she couldn't help but calm down. Because of this, I couldn't lift it up no matter what. Only then did she think of asking about her injuries. What did the doctor say? Am I okay? You still know how to be afraid. He looked at her distressed and angry. There are bodyguards here, why are you pushing the child? Can't you take care of yourself first? I am their mother, she was still weak but said stubbornly. In turn, she comforted him, okay, don't be angry. Don't you think I'm fine? Looking at his expression, she knew that she was fine. If there was really a big problem like a disability, he wouldn't blame him like this. Spoke to her in a tone of voice. He glared at her lightly, you think it's okay? It's been 100 days of broken bones and muscles. Just take good care of her and don't leave any sequelae. She smiled and responded softly, okay. The two chatted for a while, enjoying the tender moments after the disaster. After a long time, Lilei asked, did you see clearly who was driving? Xiaoling shook her head, the headlights were so dazzling at the time that I didn't see anything. Why, the driver who caused the accident was not found. I suspect that someone deliberately wanted to hit you. Lilei's expression was a little gloomy. Why? Xiaoling asked. It stands to reason that there is a high possibility of accidents, such as drunk driving, or a novice female driver. Why is he so suspicious of someone doing it on purpose? Lilei said, as soon as the accident happened, I sent people to investigate the driver, but they haven't been found yet. If it was really an accident and the driver escaped temporarily, it would be impossible for him to hide under the Li family's dragnet unless there is someone. It was deliberate and the concealment plan was planned in advance. Xiaoling shuddered. Who on earth has such a big hatred against her? Even the children are not spared. Are there any clues about the murderer? She asked Lilei. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 977. Chapter 977, Tiger Poison Cannot Eat Seeds. Lilei shook his head and reassured her, it will happen. He returned to the office and summoned several close subordinates to investigate, including Tan Ying. Today, Tan Ying is not only the general manager of the training camp, but also shoulders some important responsibilities and is his capable right-hand man. He asked Tan Ying, you have been in the country the longest and are the most familiar with the entertainment industry. What enemies does your wife usually have? Since the driver responsible for the accident cannot be found, he can work backwards to see who Xiaoling has offended and who they are. There is such a deep hatred that will kill her. Tan Ying said, Madam usually offends people, but these are small conflicts such as grabbing notices, and they are not so hateful that people would risk offending the Li family to assassinate her. Boss, I guess it is probably the enemies of the Li family on the road, because they cannot attack you, have turned to the wife and children. What he said made sense. Lilei lit a cigarette and pondered. Another close subordinate said, it's not that there is no deep hatred, Madam married you and raised young Master Rui. This is a deep hatred for Miss Sutang. Lilei's heart skipped a beat, how could he forget her? He heard Tan Ying scold him, Jack, what nonsense are you talking about? Sutang has fought alongside us for so many years and is loyal to the boss. How could he attack the boss's wife and children? Jack said, being loyal to the boss does not mean being loyal to the wife. It is true that Sutang is very popular in the Li family, but there is always someone who can analyze the problem calmly without being affected. Tan Ying wanted to say something else, but Lilei had already put out his cigarette, focus on investigating Sutang, and also investigate the enemies of the Li family to see which forces have been active in S City recently, and investigate them together. Boss, Tan Ying was anxious, you will chill Sutang's heart. Tan Ying, Lilei looked directly into his eyes. In the dim light of the sky, his gaze was as sharp as a hunting falcon, can I trust you? Tan Ying became even more anxious, of course. You have seen my loyalty over the years, eager to express his feelings, he rarely used the word you when speaking. Boss, I speak for Sutang. I just hope that everyone can live in harmony. I don't want to see any turmoil within the Li family. If Xiaoling has 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages, then it will be a real turmoil. Sutang knows the general situation so well that he would not attack Madam. Really, Li Lei said softly, as if he was asking Tan Ying, but also as if he was talking to himself. Maybe Sutang was a sensible woman in other matters, but when it came to love, he thought of that woman who walked through the primitive jungle alone and endured the humiliation to rescue him who was seriously injured and dying. There was a slight pain in his heart, like a thorn. Pricked. I also hope it's not her, Li Lei said, but few people can stay rational in the face of love. Tan Ying, let me ask you, if it was really Sutang who did this to Xiaoling, would you still stand by her? Over there. Sutang won't. I mean if. Tan Ying was quiet. Looking at Li Lei's solemn expression, he also straightened his face and gave his own answer, if it is really Sutang, I will never protect her, although in terms of personal feelings, he has a good impression of Sutang. He is much larger than Xiaoling, but he understands better that Xiaoling is now the head of the Li family, and Xiaoling is the biological mother of the next heir. Xiaoling's safety is more important than 100 Sutangs put together. He will not be carried away by personal feelings. Okay, Li Lei stared at him closely, I'll leave Sutang's matter to you to investigate. Whether she is guilty or innocent, you can verify it yourself. Boss, this time, it was Jack. In a hurry, how could Tan Ying be asked to investigate Sutang? What if the murderer was really Sutang but was covered up by Tan Ying? Tan Ying was also shocked. He didn't expect that Li Lei would entrust him with such an important matter. Boss, he also asked in confusion. If you think you are not qualified, you can refuse, Li Lei said calmly. He didn't need to suspect anyone, but he didn't doubt his employees. He didn't want to put a thorn in the heart of such an important subordinate because of Sutang, so he might as well take this opportunity to let Tan Ying find out the truth on his own. Li Lei also didn't want the person who committed the crime to be Sutang, but what if it really was Sutang? With Tan Ying witnessing this result, many people in the family who were facing Sutang had nothing to say. He did this for Tan Ying and his subordinates, as well as for Xiaoling. Only in this way, if Sutang is really guilty, the complaints from his subordinates against Xiaoling will not be gathered. To put it bluntly, Xiaoling is an outsider. To gain a foothold in the Li family, it is not enough to just give birth to a son. She also needs to go through a long period of integration and management. Li Lei hopes that one day, her subordinates will support her as they did Sutang. Tan Ying looked at Li Lei with a complicated expression. After a long time, he said, I can do the job. Li Lei smiled, don't let me down. With the matter settled in this way, Tan Ying began to investigate Sutang, tracing all of Sutang's whereabouts during this period in detail, including the places she had been, the people she had met, and the phone calls she had made. Sutang never expected that the person secretly investigating her would be Tan Ying, who had always been on her side. She didn't have much defense against Tan Ying, and some clues were revealed without realizing it. These clues aroused Tan Ying's vigilance. Even if Tan Ying was unwilling to admit it, his extremely high professionalism still made him take action. He installed several monitors and bugs in Sutang's residence. Soon after, he obtained the evidence. What a waste, how come no one was killed? In the room, Sutang called the killer angrily, do you still have the nerve to ask me for money, roll? I don't know what was said on the other end of the phone. Sutang was impatient, don't talk about these things, what if Li Rui is my son, he can trade one for Yexin Ling and Li Shaowai for two, it's a good deal. After a while, don't threaten me, you can solve the problem yourself, isn't that still lying in the hospital, find a way to kill her, double the price, if you can't kill her, you won't get any of the remaining balance, said and hung up the phone angrily. Tan Ying was frightened when he heard this. He didn't expect that it was really Su Tang. I didn't expect that Su Tang, who has always been generous and elegant, would have such a ferocious and ugly side. When she yelled at Xiaoling as a bitch, how was she different from a street shrew? What's even more terrifying is that she said she would trade Li Rui for Ye Xingling and Xiao Hui. Even the poison of a tiger is not enough to eat its seeds. This woman's heart is more poisonous than that of a tiger. If that big truck had crashed, not to mention Ye Xingling, even Li Lei's 2 sons would have died. There were only 2 young masters in the Li family, and the entire family tried their best to protect them. In her words, they became dispensable burial gifts. Tan Ying was terrified. For the first time, she felt that a woman like Su Tang could never be married to her. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 978. Chapter 978. The real murderer is brought to justice. There was no time for him to continue to be shocked. Su Tang did not give up yet and urged the killer to continue assassinating Xiaoling. Tan Ying was worried about Xiaoling's safety and reported the investigation results to Li Lei immediately. Li Lei got the result. His eyes were dark and unpredictable. It is indeed her. Tan Ying looked at him worriedly. Boss, how should we deal with it? Li Lei made a decision: send more manpower to protect Madame, arrest Su Tang immediately, and lock her up properly. Tan Ying begged for mercy. Boss, Su Tang has been with you for so many years. He has worked hard without any credit. Even if he is obsessed with love for a while, he is still blinded by love. Please. Do your part. Li Lei's tone turned cold. Tan Ying looked at his terrifying expression and closed her mouth. What he didn't know was that even if Li Lei could make concessions on everything, he would not make the slightest concession on Xiaoling's matter. What if you indulge Su Tang today and others follow suit in the future? Xiaoling cannot be put in danger just for the sake of temporary kindness. Li Lei went to the hospital to visit Xiaoling and told her the results of the investigation. Xiaoling was also shocked. It's her. She doesn't even care about her child's life. She hates Xiao Rui for being close to you, Li Lei said. This was the first time he discovered that Su Tang was not only ruthless to his enemies, but also extremely ruthless to his own people. A person who can kill his own son, what else can't he do? He gently stroked Xiaoling's long hair and thought about how to deal with Su Tang. Xiaoling also thought of this. What are you going to do with her? Li Lei pondered and expressed his decision. How about X-prison? X-prison. Xiaoling heard this term for the first time and asked curiously, what is that place? There is a mysterious place in the world, Li Lei said, which was jointly built by several powerful countries and forces to detain serial murderers, perverts, and other extremely vicious criminals. They are all imprisoned for life. Once a person goes in, he can never get out. It is so chaotic that even the jailer dare not enter easily. Locking Su Tang in not only punishes her, but also gives her a chance. The people inside are the worst. She is worse than death, and there are those who live well and can dominate. She saved my life, and she is Xiao Rui's biological mother. I don't want to do too much. Xiaoling was silent for a moment, then nodded. That's fine. The life-saving grace cannot be repaid, but the crime of murder also needs to be punished. This approach is already the best outcome under the trade-offs. What's more, when Li Rui grows up, he will probably feel uncomfortable if he learns that his biological mother died because of her. Now, she and Li Rui are getting closer and closer, and she doesn't want her children to be alienated from her. Li Lei held her in his arms lovingly. Thank you. She smiled faintly. Do we still need to talk about these things? Just as he believed that she could handle Pei Xian's problem, she also believed that he could handle Su Tang well. Su Tang was arrested. In the prison cell, her face was pale but full of stubbornness. I was wronged. I want to see Lilei. What responded to her was the stainless steel cell door slowly opening. Xiaoling was sitting in a wheelchair, being guarded by a bodyguard. Pushed into the room. Long time no see, she looked at Sutang and smiled lightly. Sutang's eyes changed. Are you paralyzed? Xiaoling laughed again. It's a pity to disappoint you. I'm very well. It's just a few broken bones. The plaster has just been removed and I can actually walk around. But Lilei is extremely nervous. He wants me to sit in a wheelchair. He just loves to worry. Show off the red fruit. Sutang was already disappointed when he heard that she was fine, but seeing her showing off her affection so proudly, he really wanted to rush up and tear her face apart. After finally holding back the burning jealousy in his heart, Sutang swallowed his anger and said to Xiaoling, "It's great that you're fine. How could I harm you? I was wrongly accused." Really? Xiaoling's smile was slightly cold. At this time, she was still making excuses. Sutang looked at her sincerely. "Madam, you have to believe me. Xiao Rui was also there at the time. I love him so much, how could anyone hurt him? You still have the nerve to mention Xiao Rui." Xiaoling's anger couldn't be suppressed. She had already experienced a life and death fight between love rivals with Xiao Yu in her previous life, so she was not surprised. But what about the relationship between mother and son? "Sutang, are you still a human? After all, you can get down to such a small child. You almost beat Xiao Rui to death last time, and you plan to kill him directly this time. Use his life in exchange for Xiao Hui and me. Do you think it's a good deal?" Even though Sutang's worries were exposed, he still pretended, "I didn't. Madam, since you don't believe me, just call Lilei and I will explain to him face to face." "How long have you been, and you still want to see Lilei?" Xiaoling sneered. "The surveillance and listening devices have conclusive evidence. Tan Ying and the others also followed the clues and caught the killer. I advise you not to fight to the death." "What, even the killer was caught?" Sutang's face turned pale, knowing that he had no chance of making excuses anymore. Now that she was seen through, she simply stopped pretending, changed her elegant and weak style, and looked at Xiaoling with a sneer. "Yes, so what if it's me? It's a pity that the killer was too bad and didn't kill you on the spot. Otherwise now there should be grass growing on your grave." She looked vicious and gritted her teeth. "Are you finally willing to tell the truth?" Xiaoling still sneered. "Don't you know that I am blessed with great fortune? I heard that the killer you hired is world-class and has never failed in a mission. You spent a lot of money and bankrupted your fortune to hire him. It's touching, hee, thank you for looking up to me so much. But it's such a pity. Don't you know what I was doing at that concert? Blessing, giving back. My brother said that Sanskrit music has such magic power. I wish the world a blessing. Thousands of people have blessed me, so many blessings have come to me, don't be kidding me." Sutang shook his head. "I don't believe it. Those are all feudal superstitions. Ignorance means ignorance." Xiaoling laughed at her mercilessly. "Do you think my Xia family's reputation was touted in vain? You don't believe what the imperial master says, you deserve to end up in such a miserable end. Yes, Yingling, you are just relying on your good background." "Yes, I have a good background, I am better than you. How about it? When has Xiaoling ever suffered the loss in a quarrel? I'm so angry that I won't pay for my life. To tell you the truth, I am not Yes Yingling at all, I am Xiaoling, the Emperor's Queen Xiaoling herself. Are you shocked? When I recognized my ancestor and returned to the Xia family, the Xia family announced, but I am the reincarnation of Xiaoling. It's a pity that you all think you are smart and treat it as a gimmick." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xiaowei Niang. Chapter 979. Chapter 979 I'll give you a ride. Su Tang's face looked like he'd seen a ghost. How could such a bizarre thing happen? Xiaoling raised her head with some arrogance. It's because you have little knowledge. Su Tang, it was wrong for you to argue with me from the beginning. Do you have such a good background? Do you have the support of your mother's family? Did you let Li Lei love at first sight? Are you as popular as me? Are you as beautiful as me? She asked a barrage of questions that made Su Tang almost vomit blood. What is Li Lei's love at first sight? Li Lei didn't fall in love with you at first sight. Su Tang couldn't help but mock her viciously. He only wanted to treat you as a bed warmer at first. Don't think that I don't know how many women have come before you. Go away. There's nothing special about you in his eyes. You just used some shameless means to gain his favor, Su Tang said to Xiaoling in a high voice. Xiaoling has long known about classmate Li Xiaoli's past romantic history, but since he has cut off all ambiguous relationships since he met her, she never took it seriously. Now when I heard Su Tang mention it, not only did it not hurt him, but he also hit Su Tang with more enthusiasm. Yes, yes, he used to read countless people. Tisk tisk, I said Special Assistant Su. Oh no, I'm sorry, I forgot about you. You are no longer qualified to be a special assistant. I said, Miss Su, you are really worse off than I thought. You have been with Li Lei for so many years, and you can't stop him from finding women one after another. And what about me? As soon as he met me, he consciously cut off all the flowers and plants. I really don't know what to say to you, classmate. Xiaoling smiled happily and looked at Su Tang, whose face became even more ugly. Su Tang's chest heaved. What are you proud of? Apart from your family background and some luck, how can you compare to me? What made her most unhappy was that she had lost to a stupid woman like Xiaoling. This stupid woman was good for nothing except singing. She could neither help Li Lei deal with real objects, nor could she even protect herself from danger. She was so stupid that she managed to survive all the way. Not only did she kill idiots like Gu Lin and Nangong Kinja, she even killed Su Tang. They were all killed. You know, she has been praised as a very smart woman since she was a child. She is the one who can rival Li Lei. Xiaoling's classmate was still furious. Yeah, so what if you're so smart? Oh, right, didn't you hear me just now? I said, I'm prettier than you, prettier than you. Her smile was sweet, and her fair skin looked even more beautiful in the dim light of the prison cell. Su Tang was so angry that she was so angry. Beautiful? Are you kidding me? She still remembers how she looked when she first met Xiaoling. This girl was thin and small. She was wearing a very unsophisticated trainee's clothes. Her appearance could only be described as delicate. She could hardly find noodles in clear soup among the crowd. Not coming out. Where was Su Tang at that time? She always wears exquisite makeup, her long hair is carefully taken care of, and her skin, nails, and earrings and bracelets are all shining with a moving light. At that time, when Su Tang was walking on the street, she had such a high rate of turning heads. Even Li Lei joked in his spare time that he had seen so many beauties, but Su Tang was the most beautiful. His words made her feel happy, and she secretly looked forward to the day when he, after seeing everything, could turn around and live a good life with her. She always thought that she was different and that the person Li Lei loved most was her, but she just didn't want to play with her casually, so she didn't touch her. She always looks forward to the day when the prodigal son will take over and spend the rest of their lives together. In fact, if Xiaoling hadn't appeared halfway, this injustice might have been realized. Mr. Li has long said that Su Tang is a good wife, and every time when his grandfather said this, Li Lei smiled non-committally. Su Tang's heart was so happy that he laughed. Finally, Mr. Li couldn't stand it anymore and comforted Su Tang. Xiao Lei said, if you reach the right age and still can't find the girl you love, and you are willing to marry him, he can marry you. She left the old man's tea room with a blushing face and a sullen expression of embarrassment. But in his heart, he secretly remembered these words and took care of Li Lei even more diligently. Unexpectedly, the beloved girl still appeared. She was actually such an inconspicuous girl that in the eyes of Sutang, who was used to seeing handsome boys and beauties, she thought she was an ugly duckling. But now, this former little girl proudly told her that she was prettier than her. Which one is tolerable? Sutang sneered and said, pretty? Why don't you take a mirror to look at yourself? Tan Ying was blind before he selected you into the training camp. No one would want you at the draft. Just be jealous. I'm prettier than you. She emphasized the accent on two words, turned her head excessively, and asked the bodyguard, who do you think is prettier? The bodyguard said seriously, of course the lady is beautiful. It's so pitiful that he didn't act unconscionably. The Xiaoling in front of him was indeed much prettier than Sutang. She had just recovered from a serious illness. She was wearing a soft pink shirt, which made her originally pale skin look very good. Her long crow-green hair was carefully trimmed, making it smooth, shiny and long. Eyelashes like butterfly wings, lips as light and beautiful as cherry blossoms. In contrast, what about Sutang? A head of messy and dry hair like straw, dark yellow skin, deeply sunken cheeks. There is no comparability at all, okay. Only then did Sutang realize that something was wrong, and suddenly realized that the haggard appearance of herself now was so different from the pampered Xiaoling. The white swan and the ugly duckling many years ago were now completely reversed, and she turned into the high-ranking woman who conquered the country and the city. And I am the one that no one wants in the draft. The so-called appearance comes from the heart. Xiaoling lowered her head and played with her nails, saying quietly, some people just grow more beautiful, and some people just grow uglier. Sutang, you want to see Li Lei? Are you sure that with your current appearance, you won't make Li Lei fall in love with me even more after meeting him? You're talking nonsense, Sutang shouted angrily and rushed forward to hit her, but was caught by the bodyguard. I'm not talking nonsense, Xiaoling smiled. Have you heard that there was a Mrs. Li in ancient times? She was doted on by the emperor all her life. When she was haggard before her death, she knew how to refuse the emperor's meeting and leave a trace to others. The most beautiful impression. Besides, Li Lei hasn't loved you yet. Seeing your appearance now will give you nightmares at night. Sutang was so angry, you bitch. Li Lei knows who thee is. Xiaoling still smiled, not afraid of her at all. He didn't want to see the bitch, so he asked me to give you a ride. Sutang, you still do you have anything to say? Sorry, I got up late today and got up a little late. It's also possible that it's almost over and I can't bear to leave it. There will be many extra episodes after the completion, don't worry. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 980. Chapter 980, Squeezing Sutang. Sutang keenly captured the message in her words, give me a ride. Xiaoling looked at her, yes. Considering that you are Xiao Rui's biological mother and saved Li Lei's life, he did not intend to kill you, but decided to send you to X prison. You stay with him after so many years, you have heard about it, right? Anyway, I don't know much about it, so I can only wish you good luck. Sutang's body was shaking slightly. She had indeed heard about it. She heard that it was the most miserable on earth in the world. All the prisoners who were locked up there would never come out alive. It was a no-nonsense zone independent of other countries in the world. It was unknown what was hidden deep in the prison. There are so many extremely vicious criminals that even the prison guards dare not get involved. Does Li Lei want to send her there? She smiled sadly, is this what will happen if I save his life? Xiaoling frowned. Sutang, no matter how great the kindness is, it will be exhausted. You have challenged his limits time and time again, and designed to kill his wife and children. The person you want to kill is not only me, but also him, his biological son. The future heir of the Li family. Even if one life is worth one life, you still owe him one life. It is already your greatest blessing that he spares your life. How dare you blame him? Sutang looked at her fiercely. How can your life and that of your little be worth his life? Whether it's worth it or not is not up to you. Xiaoling's expression turned cold. Also, didn't anyone tell you not to curse people casually? Congratulations, from today until X prison, you haven't eaten. Sutang's heart skipped a beat. It was one thing to have no food outside, but it was another thing to go to X prison hungry. I heard that there is a place where people eat people without spitting out their bones. Who knows if there is enough food and whether you can have a full meal. She was unfamiliar with the place, so it was not a wise move to go to jail hungry and weak. Sutang was thinking a lot and looked at Xiaoling with unpredictable eyes. Xiaoling deliberately frightened her. Don't you think you are beautiful? I heard that in that prison, male prisoners and female prisoners are not separated at all. If a beautiful woman like you goes in, how much torture can you get from those people, God? I'm looking forward to it. Don't blame her for being vicious, but the fact that Sutang hired someone to assassinate her really angered her. It could cost 3 lives if she wasn't careful, especially when her Xiaohui was also involved. In comparison, using words like this to scare Sutang is simply light. Sutang's face has turned pale. She has never been afraid of anything in her life. Even if she faces the most brutal drug lord or a hail of bullets, she can show no fear at all. But what about the incident? Having experienced all that in the primitive jungle, she often had nightmares when she dreamed back at midnight. She didn't want to experience that kind of experience again. I was wrong, she looked panicked, and finally gave in to Xiaoling. I shouldn't have scolded you, and I shouldn't have scolded young Master Xiaowai. Please forgive me and don't deny me food. She was full. Only then can we have the strength to protect ourselves, and only then can we have the means to deal with those criminals. She didn't want to go into prison in a bad state, not at all. Xiaoling, what did you say? I didn't hear it. Sutang gritted his teeth and said loudly, I was wrong. Please let me go. Looking at the face of the woman in front of her, Xiaoling was filled with emotions. When they first met, she was such a noble and proud woman, with a sense of superiority in her bones. But now, she was forced to beg her for mercy. It must feel very unpleasant. If it wasn't for the obsession deep in your heart, why would you have gotten to this point? Unconsciously, Xiaoling felt a sense of compassion. However, this trace of compassion was quickly suppressed by her. Someone told her that kindness to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. She looked at Sutang, her smile getting colder and colder. You know you're wrong. I know, Sutang said with a sigh of relief. Want me to give you something to eat? Please give me something to eat. Sutang's teeth were all broken and her body was shaking. Unprecedented humiliation enveloped her, and grief and anger bit into her heart. But what can she do? Xiaoling narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at her, thinking about what else she could do with her plea. Make her swear to stop thinking about Lilei? Don't be ridiculous. This kind of wishful thinking can't be stopped by just saying it. Make her promise not to hurt Xiaowai and the others again? It makes no sense, not to mention that her guarantee cannot be trusted, and once she goes to X prison, she will never get out. There is no difference between guarantee and no guarantee. What else can be squeezed out? Xiaoling looked at the desolate Sutang in front of her like a piece of meat on a chopping board. Sutang felt the hair on his back as he looked at her. He vaguely understood her thoughts and said tentatively, Madam? Is there anything else I can do for you? As long as you say it, I will definitely do it. I can do it, all my property is given to you. I can tell you the secrets of the Li family's affairs. Xiaoling chuckled, just your little money? What do I want to do here? What about the Li family's secrets? Since Li Lei decided to exile you, he must have understood that the secrets in your hands are worthless, and you are no longer worthy of it. His special assistant has been there for many years, so what kind of core can he still have access to? Don't take yourself too seriously. Although she has no judgment regarding the affairs of the Li family, she trusts Li Lei's judgment. Su Tang's face turned blue and white, and everything he was proud of, including beauty, wisdom, wealth, intelligence, etc., was trampled by Xiaoling one by one. And Xiaoling looked at her as if she was looking at a piece of useless trash. When had she been treated like this? For a moment, I felt humiliated and angry, mixed with the fear of the unknown fate of X-prison, and my whole body began to tremble unknowingly, getting worse and worse. Xiaoling also felt melancholy. Could it be that there really was no value left to squeeze out? Okay, don't be so scared, she said to Su Tang impatiently, don't you think you are very smart? Then think carefully about what else you can do to help me. If you think of it, I'll give you food. If you can't figure it out, haha, you'll have to go to jail hungry. Don't say that she doesn't give Su Tang a chance, she is very optimistic about Su Tang's intelligence. Speaking, he motioned to the bodyguard to push her out of the prison cell. Wait a minute, Su Tang was so anxious that she actually thought of an idea. Madam, I have it. Bring Li Rui here, and I will tell him the truth about wanting to kill him. He will definitely hate it then. From now on, I will treat you wholeheartedly and treat you like my own mother. Oh, Xiaoling raised her hand slightly to signal the bodyguard not to be in a hurry. Are you so kind? End of this chapter.